Hello and welcome back to the Morningscape podcast. We have missed Matt Moody. He is back. He is back from Florida. He is not in negative 15-degree wind chill weather. He's back to cold weather. I don't know. Good start to the show. Matt, how was Florida?
It's good. My doors are frozen shut in my car, so that was a fun experience. But no, it's fine. I prefer the cold to the heat. I was sweating and I hated it. I never hate it when I'm cold. Like, obviously I'm not going outside for hours at a time, but when it's warm, you're supposed to be outside for hours at a time. And it's just, it's just not like it's not for me. I'll never complain about being cold.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess I don't completely share the same sentiment, but I'm also like getting up in the morning right now. Like, I live in an older place. And it is 57 degrees this morning when I got out of bed in my house, and I turn on the fire and try to get it warm before but getting out of the shower and then going outside and going what?
Do you not have central heating? Like, is that what you're
Yes,
saying?
it's just old. And when it gets negative 15 with the wind chill, it just can't keep up enough. Like, it is always fine, but when it gets this level cold, it just can't. I mean, negative 15 with the wind chill. Like, I don't know, man. It's an old place. I don't know what to tell you, but what I can tell you is I'm surviving and advancing, just as I am in best ball playoff NFL. And if you let me get going, then I'm going to do that. So why don't we talk about the NHL slate?
Yeah, we have a lot of games, 11 of them.
11.
I mean, is there anything else to stall time with as I finish off these last few games here, or are we just saying the last few games of the slate don't matter?
No, I could probably stall for a couple minutes here. I mean, I don't need to go crazy. I can always talk. I don't know. I mean, yeah, no, pretty successful little bit here. Some of it felt like good process, good results. Some of it felt like good process, bad results, getting a little bit bailed out here or there. And then last night was just truly, horseshoe up the ass, puck rolls to Philip Forsberg, empty net, rip it down and snipe it. 7th goal of the night. You'll love to see it. So yeah, no, been a good little stretch here. I have been not getting as much DFS action as I would have liked, but I'm surviving, I suppose. Definitely just excited to hopefully get back to some level of normal after this weekend and things to slow down a little bit. But it does suck like right now, just busy, not getting out of work till 5:30. This is really bad stalling.
Would you like to share what you are doing this weekend?
Yeah, why not, right? So last year, my cousin, who is a doctor, he is a neurologist, very well paid guy, decides, what if we all do a family trip to our cottage, which is to call it a cottage is to give it a more than enough credit than it deserves. It is a built in 1940 small place, no heating at all. I mean, we're talking truly like unlivable. And he's like, we'll be freezing cold. We'll get a drive back, but we're going to go ice fishing at our cottage. And I'm like, Devin, no one wants to do that. So this year he's like, fine, I will rent a place on a lake. And that's like an actual house on a lake. And we're going to go ice fishing. And finally, we all just decided we're going to do it. So I will be ice fishing. It is supposed to heat up to a brisk, like 20 degrees for the weekend. But yeah, I mean, that's the plan. So yeah, it's just so funny. Like, I don't even know how much he makes. I just don't even want to guess. It's just like, this is what you want to do. You want to go ice fishing on Oneida Lake in the heart of January.
Could not imagine saying yes to said activity.
Okay. I will tell you what I've told every person that said what is, I'm sitting there and I'm like, there's no way we're going to do this. And my dad called me and goes, I kind of just want to go. He's like, I don't want to fish, but I'd love to go and hang out. And I'm just like, well, I'm going to go like now, you know what I mean? Like, he's just like, yeah, it sounds like the fishing part sounds terrible, but I'd love to hang out with you guys. He's like, I miss you guys, miss Devin, I miss you and Winter. I'm like, oh, I got to go. You know what I mean? Like, the old man calls you, you show up.
I mean, that is fair.
Yeah. I just,
the Mr. Mitchell guilt trip. It
wasn't even
rarely. All right.
I don't mind the going. It's just I'm making the most out of it. I've made a meme every single day that is unbelievably stupid to put in the chat. I guess it's all like family and friends. I'll quickly just show on camera for the people, the brave souls. I made a National Lampoon, are we calling it Cooter Conference? You can't really see, but I cropped our faces in. All right, it's about the best I can give you there. Yeah, because my cousin decided to name it Cooter Conference for absolutely no reason.
The audio listeners are just up roaring right now because they can't see DJ's.
If anyone tags me, tag me in Discord, like at me if you want me to post a picture in there. I will not do it unless if I get at by at least 2 people.
At least 2 people. All right. I'm counting on you. Saul's one of them. And
I can see him right now just turning it off, just being like, I've done. This is actually it for me.
This is actually not worth my time.
This is the final straw.
Yeah. Well, anyway, we do have 11 games. It's an interesting one. I mean, right off the top, it looks like Kaprizov will be back for Minnesota, which obviously is pretty slate defining. I'm trying. Josh Norris is out and doesn't sound good. It's the thing where he was out precautionary yesterday and now he's out for 3 games, and it's like, okay, like what changed between last night and today that he's out long term? So
I mean, it kind of felt like that with the Foley too, though, where it was like, oh, like he's fine. Actually, there's no real issue. He just like unfortunately couldn't go, and then all of a sudden it's like, okay, what about tomorrow? And they're like, who? Toffoli? They're like, huh?
Oh,
never heard of that guy.
Yeah.
I mean, flu's going around. It could be that simple where like they're just like, well, he's hurt, and then he has the flu, and it's like the thing I will say, and this just keeps coming up over and over again on multiple podcasts, is that players are starting to get very, very, very pissed off about injury news coming out about them, which is exactly the opposite of what the gambling community would like to see, and it's going to be. I think it's going to only get worse. Like these players are actively saying, like, we do not want this information out there. We're not going to tell anyone. They want these smoke screens up, so we're not going to know. I think that's only going to get worse, and I think it's becoming a point of contention in the CBA potentially, but I don't know that. That's just based on sort of the rumor mill around it. So I expect this to be a prevalent and ongoing problem. But on the other hand, it can come in handy when you are in on the before the slate locks news and you can get these lineups and make these changes. You're going to benefit over the opto bros who won't look back. So definitely worth keeping in mind, depending how you play, to keep, use it to your advantage.
Yeah. It's very painful for podcasters like us, but it's also good for grinders like us who are, trying to capitalize on news and stuff. So take the good with the bad. Looking at the Thursday slate with a bit of a higher level view, just going quickly through the games. Ottawa-Boston looks like a pretty clear advantage for Ottawa, but that's almost entirely based on Boston falling apart defensively, which we talked about, I think, on the last podcast. We may have wrote about it. Swayman's sort of rounding back in the form, and so, is that just a relic of goaltending, in the expected goals sort of not capturing the rebounds, all that sort of stuff that short samples tend to fall short on, because Ottawa itself does not look very good or very fun from a DFS standpoint. Montreal, Detroit, both sides are pretty strong here. DJ, look forward to your thoughts on the Montreal Canadiens here as they continue to pile up wins. Philly at the Rangers. Philly looks pretty decent. The Rangers haven't been bad though, so it's like actually the Philadelphia Flyers are just good. Columbus, Carolina. Obviously, Carolina has a distinct advantage. Columbus on a back-to-back as well. So I should note that Boston was on a back-to-back in the first game of the night there. So 2 spots that we'll need to keep an eye on for information from Wednesday night. Vegas at St. Louis. Neither side looking very good there. Utah at Minnesota. Utah looking solid, but again, Minnesota getting back Kaprizov and Jared Spurgeon. Spurgeon is also very important to that squad, and Utah does not seem like they'll have Mikhail Sergachev, but I haven't seen an actual update on him. I don't even know what his injury was. So, I'm certainly not expecting to be out long term. So keep an eye there. Buffalo, Calgary. I mean, good luck if you're going there. Vancouver, Edmonton. No McDavid, of course, for Edmonton, still suspended. No Tyler Myers, also equally important on the Vancouver side. Pittsburgh, Anaheim. I saw some line changes in Anaheim, but Pittsburgh's going to look pretty decent here, as you might suspect. And then Washington, Seattle. Seattle looking kind of good because Washington just continues to do it. They are just living on goaltending now. It's really annoying. And then the nightcap, you all were just waiting to hear it. Nashville at San Jose. Just awful.
Yeah.
Can't believe they're doing this to us again.
Like I said, I benefited from the horseshoe up the ass, Forsberg snipe end of the game. I did not play DFS. I just ran out of time and was trying to get as much betting stuff done as possible. And then I'm like, I just not going to play some 1K slate. But what was their ownership again? It was like 50%.
It was 50%. They were at home.
And they
DraftKings credit, they did price up every player about 1,000 on that line, and they're going on the road. So theoretically, that'll make them a bit more a real option and not just like a donkey chalk, whatever jam play. But we'll get to that one last. But of course, keep that in mind because Nashville looking pretty good lately. Turns out scoring goals helps because
it does.
They weren't doing that. All right, let's start things off though with Ottawa and Boston. Here is how Ottawa is lining up without Josh Norris for the time being. Pinto between Kachuk and Giroux. Obviously, the power plays here are going to look a bit different. We didn't see power play though, so maybe they keep what they had last game. Maybe they don't. I'm not worrying too much about it because this is not a spot that I am particularly interested in. David Perron is back playing with Ostapchuk and Greg, leaving the quote-unquote Stützle line or top line to be Nick Cousins, Stützle, and Batherson. David Perron's interesting. He's the minimum salary, but I don't think this matchup's anything that we're looking to target. So, DJ, any quick thoughts on the Ottawa side here?
I mean, sportsbooks have this as a 5.5 minus 115 on the over, basically a dead coin flip as of now. Minus 105 on Ottawa, just a bit of a boost. And I think it's Ottawa or nothing for me. Pinto, the Chuck, and Sanderson, but it's definitely not high on my radar. I don't think it'll be high on many people's radar. It's playable. It's certainly playable, but I don't think it's anything I'm going crazy about. I definitely think in the betting space, I'm going to be taking a really good look at Pinto, seeing where he's at. If this sticks together as we have here, line with the Chuck and your power play one, I'm going to be pretty interested in betting it, but I don't know if it's the best angle to attack in DFS. It's an angle. I don't think it's the best one. They got shithoused against the Rangers, and it felt like it was worse than maybe you even think for 5-0. So I think everything's up for debate for what will actually happen. Yeah.
What did it actually look like? It was Giroux last game there.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And Pinto played 20 minutes, but he killed penalties too and stuff. I still think Pinto's around. In any capacity. I'm not sure if he's an entirely one-offable piece, but I think he's a ladderable shot type of guy because it does seem like he has a ceiling, and it's when he gets the minutes, it can hit. So I'm interested from that perspective for sure, but that's about it here.
Yeah. Okay. I was a little confused in doing the intro. Norris played 4 minutes and left. Okay. That makes slightly more sense, but does increase my concern level for sure, given his history of shoulder injuries. So anyway, we have a very small sample of David Perron so far this year, but he's actually been shooting a bunch. So if he's drawing back in and gets, whatever minimum salary against the Boston back-to-back team, I think there's better minimum salary plays, but he's certainly an option. Let's go to the next game. Boston in action against New Jersey, probably right now as we're doing this. So remains to be seen. But another minimum salary option that is center eligible is Matthew Poitras. He's between Brad Marchand and Charlie Coyle. This line absolutely nuked against San Jose on Monday. So assuming they don't get run over by New Jersey, I think that line sticks. Poitras has some decent prospect pedigree. More of a playmaker, but
isn't it Patois? Like Patois? I thought it was Patois.
Patois, sure.
I don't know.
And
Yeah.
also, listening to a Boston accent person say it will probably break my brain. So, yeah, I'll just leave it to the experts there. What's noteworthy, though, is that means Elias Lindholm is down with Wallstrom and Lettieri on the third line.
Yeesh.
I don't think there's a ton here. I mean, again, it's a back-to-back. It's, really a gross game environment. Ottawa's been fine defensively. Like, yeah, we talked about them getting run over by the Rangers and whatnot, but, like, it was 2.6 expected goals to 1.4. So it wasn't really the defense that was the total problem there. So do you see anything like Mason Lohrei should continue to be power play 1, 3,600, averaging about 8 expecteds and actual fantasy points a night over the last 10? Anything there for you?
I'm not going to click on Boston on a back-to-back in a bad matchup. I do think there's at least a reason people will look at Pastrnak again. He's smashed 4 slates in a row going into Wednesday night. We'll see what he does. I think people will think this is a better matchup than it is because Ottawa's goaltending feels bad, and it just hasn't been bad because their defense has actually been very good. So I think I'm just a full stay away. I don't have any ancillary pieces I want to target too much. So yeah, if you want to play with Terry, have at it, but no thanks.
Speaking of no guts, let's go to Montreal and Detroit.
Dude, I have guts. I've stacked against Montreal to success. I cashed when I played Bobby McMahon and Nylander against Montreal just a little bit ago, and they scored 7 goals, and everyone's going to let's forget about that.
Oh, the one game where they gave up more than 3 goals? Yeah, let's see. They've since they got absolutely run over by Pittsburgh. So that Buffalo game, that infamous Buffalo game, Terry Pegula, the answer's in the room, whatever. 1 goal against, 3 goals, 1 goal, 5 goals, 0, 2, 2, 3, 1, 7, 4, 2. They just got off of holding Tampa to 2. I don't know. I understand that I think Tampa got a bunch of chances off against them, which this is intentionally reactionary to recent trends. But I will not be playing Detroit on this slate. You heard it here first. I did not think that is a surprise to anyone. But does that mean you're out on the Montreal Canadiens here? Oh,
I'm probably out on both sides. Yeah, I when the unmovable object meets the whatever force, and that to me is playing Detroit. It's just I'd rather stick needles in my eyes. It feels like you're just preying on this efficiency that's been priced into a very high degree now to get there in a game where you're not entirely wrong. Like it hasn't been easy on teams, and there's not an elite level of talent on Detroit to overcome the fact that Montreal is at least average to maybe slightly above average, as you might say. Am I looking at the other side is probably the only other question in this. Maybe. I think it's at least worth a couple looks to look at the power play here. I wish Matheson was a little bit cheaper, but Lane Hudson is really cheap, I think, for kind of where it's going for him at 4,200. Is he going to put up a 50? No, but what does he need to put up at 4,200, right? Like, could he get you 20 points? He can get you 20 points. So it's fine to stack in the mix, and it makes it affordable, and I don't think it's going to be very owned.
Yeah, I think Hudson is probably my favorite D play on the entire slate. He's just been very productive. Again, he's not going to shoot a ton, but I've made peace with that because he's actually blocking shots now. I showed this in my newsletter, which, by the way, if you're not subscribed to the newsletter, I slipped in a Tuesday newsletter because we did no podcast. So, you can see that in a bit more detail there. I wrote about the Hudson-Matheson pairing specifically and how they're just, jacking up offense for them mostly, but also for the opponents. So there's just a lot of pace, a lot of opportunity going both ways. And so I think with that comes some blocks for Lane Hudson. He's mixed them in. It at least gives him the possibility of something like a 2 assist and a blocks bonus where, he doesn't need to hit a shots bonus to absolutely nuke at just 4,200. So I like him. We got burned with Matheson. I posted an underdog slip too because I was in an underdog place. And I'm like, oh, Mike Matheson. I wrote that he was pretty good shots bet and whatever else. He did nothing. But again, Am I really going to overreact to one game? Probably not, because he's still averaging about 5 attempts a night. 5,100 on this sort of slate. I don't think I'm double stacking, Hudson Matheson, but I might. I'll certainly think about it because I just like this pairing a lot, and I don't love the forwards here. Caulfield and Laine feel a bit too expensive as sort of sharers of the sniper role. I really like it when one of those two is out, just because of how their power play functions. But if I had to pick one, it would be Laine. He's a good bit cheaper, and there's not a ton of difference in their shot rates as of late. So I'll take the discount on Patrick Laine. Detroit side, of course, if you're going anywhere here, it's to their top power play. Larkin, Raymond, Sider, Kane, DeBrincat. It's getting priced up now. I mean, Mo Sider's 6,500. I'm definitely not chasing these prices into this matchup, but I mean, that's all I would do, if anything, here. So anything new that you see here, or just move on?
We can move on. I have nothing.
All right.
Philly and the Rangers. Yeah.
I mean, Michkov did it again, right? Did he have a point in 4 shots, I think, in the first period or something like that? And then
I think it was 3 in the first, and the point and the last shot came in the second early. He only played 15 minutes, but it was just like the entire offense was him, and then they're like, all right, that's enough now. Time to sit down. Noah Cates, you're out. And that'll happen, I suppose.
It does happen like that. And something that I thought would happen to a greater degree was with no Scott Lawton, which he could and or should be back. It was a personal matter, family, so not sure what the situation is, the reason he missed. But with Lawton missing, they really only had 3 NHL lines with Lexell, Abels, and Hathaway. I want to say they sent down Lexell to the AHL, which maybe I'm just making that up, but let's see. Can we actually? Is that something that would be in the player blurbs? Yeah, he was reassigned. It could be a paper transaction. I'm not positive, but maybe Anthony Richard got called up or something. So keep an eye on that, because if this 4th line sticks, they played a bit more than I thought they would. But they still only played 10, 11 minutes as a line, which, typically that Hathaway line's playing, 14, which obviously just means that the rest of these middle 6 lines are just not getting much minutes at all, with Travis Konecny getting his normal 20, 21 minutes. Michkov was not the beneficiary of that last slate, of course. You said 15 minutes, but I do think that is still an out that we have, in our arsenal. The problem is that not even Couturier is on a power play unit anymore. So stacking him is pretty difficult. They're going double D with Risto and Sanheim on the power play, on the second power play. And then, so if you're doing anything, it's Drysdale, Tippett, Frost, Konecny, and you're likely eating into ownership on Tippett, Frost, Konecny. They've just been super owned the last few slates. Maybe in this matchup, it goes down a bit. But I still like Michkov. He's doing the things. I posted a chart of his last 10 games, rolling shot charts, and he's at his career high. Throughout the season, this is the peak Michkov, and he's 4,500 on the top power play in a gettable matchup. So I'm still about it. Not so much about Forster, Cates, Brink here, and not so much about the top line either. So anything do you want to add, or should we get to the Rangers?
I mean, do any of these defensemen entice you at all? Just before we move on, I think the Michkov thing is fine. I think the top line is fully correlated, all the nonsense, but I do think it'll get at least enough ownership to make me nervous. But
every time I look, it feels like every time I look, Cam York has a 16, and he's not been very good. So I guess I'm just seeing spikes, but maybe there's something to the fact that he actually has spikes.
Well, he gets a blocks bonus, and he
looks like he scored a goal.
The thing is him and Risto could get blocks bonuses, and they're somewhat involved. But the fact that Cam York's not on any power play is just infuriating. It's probably a no for me. I just think that York, Ristolainen, and the top power play Drysdale. It's none of these guys who are getting run, who are getting blocks bonuses, who you like. I feel like the answer is probably just no. but I don't know.
Yeah.
Okay, we can
I
go
think
over the Rangers.
the answer is not no, but it's not like unequivocally yes either. Like I think that's sort of the thing where if you need a guy and you're just like, maybe I get like a little bit of correlation that could make sense. I don't think there's anything obvious going on as far as like who's going to play with who. I guess Drysdale Michkov would be the most clear one. I believe basically that this Forster line, they're on the road now, so that could change. But I think Forster's used more with is it Risto? Let's see. No, the Sanheim York line. So that's sort of like their shutdown unit, which leaves the second pair, I guess, to play with Tippett's line, and then Michkov to play with Drysdale. Who knows? Not a major consideration. For the Rangers, we are looking at official Chris Kreider power play 1. Kaliev scored another goal. Dude he exists to do one thing, and that's score goals. He doesn't get enough minutes to be DFS viable, but maybe that's coming because, my God, is he fun to watch. But any interest in Chris Kreider specifically, given the pricing here, 4,500 power play 1. Heedle's a good center, and obviously a matchup with Philly.
Yeah, it is funny how it's like he goes to the nominal third line with Heedle, and it feels like, oh crap, like that's bad. And it's like, no, that's good. Heedle's better than Zibanejad. So like, this is a good thing. I agree. Like I think Kreider, and we talked about it on Saturday. I'm like, I think Kreider's a great play on Saturday. I think he didn't do jack. Yeah, that was the 1-0
No, he
game,
didn't.
I believe.
Since-
So Montreal was Sunday. Where he got there, but like you're playing a $4,500 goal scorer. That's what he should do. And like the Lafreniere, the Kaliev thing is kind of weird. It doesn't feel like that's a fit at all. But Heedle's good. I like it. I like Fox. I think Keandre Miller is been boosted a little bit by Borgen. I know Borgen's been a bit of we love this guy. We wouldn't want to move him, but they might. I think the Rangers have some pieces here that are of note, like you're saying, and they're cheap. I do think that the top line is also fine, but let's just stick with the cheap guys. Anything that you're.
The top line worries me because it's over 20K now. It's not 17 point something like it was last week when we were, just heeing and hawing over their pricing. And Lafreniere is no longer on that power play, so like it's just really tough sell for me. Obviously Zibanejad is like, he's 800 more than Kreider, and it's like the same sort of deal where it's like the power play, and that's really all you're playing it for. But with Kreider, I just feel a lot better about him. Like, one, I think he's the better player at this point. I think that Heedle's an actual difference maker, unlike Cooley, Smith. I don't think they're driving any buses here like Heedle theoretically could.
Yeah.
And it gives me a little bit of exposure to Arthur Kaliev. So, like, it's not like Chris Kreider. Chris Kreider is usually a Cy Young candidate where he's not picking up assists, so it's not a huge, correlation or anything. But, if Kaliev gets a hat trick, maybe Chris Kreider's along for the ride too, and I don't need to, play the extremely thin play in Kaliev. But Chris Kreider's minutes are very safe here. Since he returned from injury, he's been on the third line, averaging right around his season average, 17 and a half minutes in that stretch. So, I'm not worried about time on ice. I'm not worried about the role. Like, I think the power play is, very safe with him now, coming off a 5-0 drubbing of Ottawa. I'm just pretty much all for Chris Kreider here as a good value. So let's keep it going, though. Columbus at Carolina. Columbus on a back-to-back. Carolina not looking extremely strong in a – God, I always click on the wrong one. Team projection sheet. There we go. Columbus, Carolina. You see the matchup looks pretty good from a shot attempt standpoint for Carolina, not so much in the goals or the expected goals, very much Carolina-ing. But what if I showed you this? Svechnikov, Aho, Jackson Blake, Robertson, Kokinemi, Nachas, Martinuk, Stahl, Jarvis, and Yaska, Drury, Roslovich. Gosper, I believe, played 14 minutes last game. Like, just really tough stuff. Back-to-back games, 13 and 14 minutes for Gosper. What are we doing with Carolina? I assume we're doing nothing with Columbus on a back-to-back, but I will let you confirm that.
0% chance of
Thank
playing
you.
Columbus. They're expensive and people like to play them for no good reason. Yeah, no, I'm looking at this slate and I just am like, it's Jackson Blake a good play? And that's like actually a conversation that I've had internally already. Maybe to no, I guess if you're playing the full line, it would make at least some level of sense because he's playing at least. And that's sad because Carolina's in a good spot. I have no idea how I'd want to play it. The Kotkaniemi Natros line is doing things. Eric Robinson, whenever he's with Natros, it's just that the best line in hockey, no matter what. But none of these lines actually make me legitimately interested. And I really want to find something that's like speaks to me here because I love this spot. Back-to-back Columbus against Carolina just feels like the perfect time to buy. I don't know how to do it. You mentioned
Yeah.
Gossespierre is not playing, but he's still top power play. Slavin, Burns getting a ton of minutes. Burns almost a 5K. I saw 4,900 and I was like, what? You can't do that. But he is shooting. So, like, I don't know. I guess you're allowed to. He just doesn't get any points. Just nothing here feels good. Like if you had to, like, again, like, let's just do it. Let's just say we're playing Carolina tomorrow. I feel like you're just
match to specifically Svechnikov. 5,800 is probably going to project really, really well for that price. I worry about ownership here, and it's not a spot where I'm like, oh yeah, I can't see this failing. Like even if Carolina wins 5-2, like I could very well see any individual player here failing. So I think I'm running away from this game pretty scared. But that's the news for you at the very least. So make your own decisions.
Vegas and St. Louis. I haven't been giving any over-unders, by the way. That is the only 6.5 we've talked about so far. Everything else is a 5.5 on the entire slate except for the final game. There's, of course, minus 130s. There's, minus blah, 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 plus whatever here or there. Nothing that really is that. I mean, even this is a plus money, but it is the highest total. Carolina's implied team total is monstrous. So I do agree that honestly, probably the take here is I don't like it, and it could fail in a number of ways. And they could score 5, and it could still fail. Like, don't eat into ownership because people will just look at that total, I think, and the implied team total and get after it. So I think that's actually probably the way to do it. We get over to a game that I feel like I've seen this game like 700 times. I feel like every time I open this slate, it's Vegas and St. Louis. Maybe I'm just stupid and dumb.
I think St. Louis is just playing teams in a baseball schedule. Like I think they just snuck in that requirement because they played Calgary back to back. I mean, there was that infamous Arizona week where they spent like 2 weeks playing Arizona a couple of years back.
They just played, like you're saying, they just played on the 20th. They played, this is the exact same matchup. So, like, I'm not losing my mind. I'm not stupid in time. I'm actually smart and cool.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I don't know. I mean, this game feels like similarly confusing on one side, but I keep going the same direction. I look at what happened last time, O-meter, and it was Vegas, 4.2 to 2 expected goals, and St. Louis wins 5-4. So it's like, well, if they can be, somewhat efficient again, does that mean that we're going to see 24 minutes of Jack Eichel and 23 minutes of Stone, and Dorofeyev's going to see all the run he can handle and more, and like there's ways of looking at this game and getting excited. I don't know if I think I'm going Vegas though. I think if I'm doing it, so I'll pause there. I guess let's talk about Vegas. What are your thoughts?
Shea Theodore had 4 assists last game. That brought his expected fantasy points to 11.04 over the last 10, and his actual fantasy points to 11.04 over the last 10. And I think that's really neat. It's really nice when numbers just are matching. So shout out to Shea Theodore. He rocks. And yeah, that 5,900 price tag, likely unowned. If you want to pair that with Eichel, if you want to pair that with Stone, if you want to play the full Eichel Barbashev Stone, I think it's okay. They could change the lines up a bit. Obviously, they lost in a shootout. I didn't see actual practicing from them, but it's possible they also would have practiced yesterday, and I just didn't see it. So, there could be some changes here, but ultimately, I think if I'm playing Vegas, I'm definitely playing Shea Theodore with it. St. Louis may not have Philip Broberg. He left practice, was being evaluated. I'm ruling him out. So keep an eye on that. Scott Prunovich would likely slot in on the third D pair for that. But keep an eye out. Otherwise, Saad, Thomas, Neighbors. Holloway, Shen, Kyrou, Bushnevich, Sundqvist, Toropchenko. Kyrou, Holloway, pretty much the only things of moderate interest here. Any interest in Brandon Saad, who's been decently productive, now back on a line with Thomas and Neighbors? 2,700 price tag?
No.
Okay.
If it's Holloway, Kyrou, Shen, they're nothing for me. Still looks to be fully correlated, and Kyrou kind of stuck out there for both, like the whole power play last time. I think he's kind of reaching that level of when they need to score, he just has to be out there because he's clearly the best at it. Yeah, it's Vegas or nothing. It is funny, like with no McDavid, Eichel is the third most expensive player behind Draisaitl and Werenski by just 200 from Draisaitl. So like he really is in that elite tier. And I wonder if that gets people away from it, on the road in St. Louis, not the best matchup in the world, but like, I think that you're going to see pretty, condensed ownership in a few spots, even for how big of a slate it is. And Theodore Eichel really does speak to me. And again, the Mark Stone of it all, like, no, I don't want to click on him. Yes, he's completely, destroyed your lineup, even in that game where Eichel and Theodore did pretty freaking well for 4 games in a row. But there is a guy that has had a few just 30-something must-have-it nights, and like, I think you run that and you run a cheaper stack, and there's cheap options on this slate we've already discussed. Like you could actually build something with Vegas that works. So I'm of all the games we've talked about, I think that's
Vegas has lost 6 games in a row. I did not.
And it just got healthy. Like it just got fully healthy, and they're just not winning now. It's funny. They were literally talking about how resilient they are as a team because they haven't been healthy, and then they get healthy and they lose every night. So yeah, and it's like they're very obviously not playing guys like Holtz and Kolasar and Pearson, and those guys aren't getting run when they're losing games. So like, you're getting a lot of minutes between a few guys for a team that is desperate to get back on track. And like, not that matters that much. It just is a good spot anyways. So yeah, I think this is by far where so far this is where I'm definitely looking.
It is an interesting one. That's for sure. Utah, Minnesota, Utah, not expecting any changes. Keller, Cooley, Schmaltz, Michelli, Hayton, Doan. Kesselring running the top power play in the absence of Sergachev, and McBain, Bukestad, Kraus as the third line. I'm just going to continue to stay away from Utah. Logan Cooley has been nothing short of explosive, both with the puck and without the puck. He's just, flying up and down the ice, like causing havoc everywhere. He's a really good player. I worry a little bit though. Price tag continues to rise on that top line. Now it's up to 17,000. I don't think a road matchup with Minnesota is where I really want to bite off a ton of salary here. Because on the Minnesota side, we're looking at Kaprizov, Rossi, Zuccarello, Boldy, Eriksson, Hartman, Foligno, Gaudreau, Liam Ogren, and most importantly, defensively, we have Middleton, Faber, Chisholm, Spurgeon. Like that is basically your starting lineup for Minnesota that you would want to have. Obviously, Kaprizov and Spurgeon, they've missed a fair amount of time. I think Kaprizov was 11 or 12 games, and Spurgeon, I think, is 8 or 9. But so there could be rust, but I'm not overly excited to chance it. Kaprizov's line totals 20.5K. The Eriksson Ek line totals 16.9K. I'm guessing on power plays. Faber has been power play 1. He could lose that to Spurgeon. And obviously Rossi has been very good, but I'm guessing he loses the power play to Kaprizov, Zuccarello, Boldy, Eriksson Ek. So those are not confirmed though. So keep an eye out for it. Any thoughts on this matchup?
Kind of hate this game, honestly. Like the good part about Utah feels like it gets pretty hurt by just the fact the Wild are good, and now they just get better. I think that this game doesn't profile to be bad, but I don't know how you stack it to success through Utah at least. Like it's so obviously the top line. Like there's no other option, and Kesselring makes it cheaper. And I do think people are going to forget that this is a different Wild team than we saw, and they actually were able to shut down some top lines once Middleton and Faber got together again and things started to get back on track. So I'm not interested in going into a matchup when the Wild are just a completely different team than they were like a week ago. So many guys have missed time. So I think this is kind of like a fool's gold spot for Utah that people might look at and find a way to play because of how good Cooley's been. And adversely, I just don't know if I want to pay these exorbitant prices for the Wild until I see at least a little bit of something here. Rossi not on the top power play, not great. Kaprizov at 9K is fine, but it's his first game back. It just and I don't really think Utah is the worst team in the world, but I am more interested in the Wild if I was going to play this game, just because no Sergachev likely. I wonder about what exactly, how long Utah is going to be able to withstand, being a young team that's never really been good defensively all throughout the time in Arizona. Now they get Sergachev and it feels better, but like eventually that well could snap. So I could take a look at, stacking this. I honestly think I like the Boldy Eriksson act of it all. Like they're going to draw the worst matchup, obviously, because they're going to probably be out there against the Keller line. But am I actually that afraid of Logan Cooley as a shutdown center? No, I'm not. So I could be convinced to just go a completely different direction here if I'm going to play it at all. But again, it's not alpha jam, lock it in for me. But I do like Boldy quite a bit.
Okie dokie. Yeah, Matt Boldy, pretty good at the old hockey game. Speaking of quite good at the old hockey game, the Buffalo Sabres. I need to rethink my transitions here. Yeah, I'm guessing Zucker comes back. He missed due to illness, but I think if he comes back, they don't mess up the Paterka, Thompson, Yuri Kulik line that absolutely went apeshit against Vancouver. Like, I mean, Kulik was literally the best player on the ice. Really fun. Kulik was an awesome AHL guy at 19, and obviously the whole team has struggled at the NHL level, but that's a guy that really want to bet on going forward because he's basically, I think he's a slightly better Paterka, but we'll see. Obviously, how their careers transform or whatever. But I think if Zucker's back, he just plays with Cousins and Tuck, and then they keep that Krebs, Benson, Quinn line back together, or they keep that line together. Interestingly, they went 11-7 against Vancouver. Lord knows if I think that was literally because they didn't have options. But I'm not sure the status of Abe Kubel or whatever. So I guess keep an eye on that. If they go 11-7, you obviously don't want any punt defenders from Buffalo. But the reason that Buffalo is at least warranting some consideration is that Calgary, they've been solid defensively, but their games do have an element of pace to them. It's been like that all season long. So you're going to get shot attempts. You're going to get the sort of just flow that some games might not have with more neutral zone trap type stuff. Like Calgary just doesn't really play like that. So there we go. Any thoughts on the Buffalo Sabres here, DJ?
No, it brings me no joy to report that I want to play the Sabres tomorrow. That brings me an immense amount of initial pain and suffering. Like Kulik is like the profile is great. Like it's just, is he going to get the run in the right role? Like, and when he's been shooting. The question is, for long term would be like, is he going to, find a way to be a focal point in the top 6 or not? Because that's where his value lies. But that doesn't matter for the long term. It matters right now on this slate. And right now on this slate, he is there. So like if he is there, I think it just, just says to the moon. Like, and you're saying about Paterka, like Paterka's a really good player, right? If you're saying like this could be a JJ Paterka level of a prospect in a different mold, like I think Kulik is a bit more of a, goal scorer than Paterka for sure, which is more relevant for DFS. Like that line is good. Make sure it exists as it has. What does Zucker have? Does he have a type A flu and he's going to be out for a week? Does he have nothing and he's going to be back tomorrow? We don't know yet. So all of this is, of course, keep an eye on it. But I love that top line. I could even mix in Dolly, and I really don't mind at 6,800. He hasn't been the best. It kind of feels like when he's getting assists, it means the Sabres are winning and he's not shooting. And when he's not getting these points, he's not shooting as much. And eventually that could just snap because no one likes to give up goals like the Buffalo Sabres. And maybe this is the goal palooza of the night that no one's really going to think of because, I think people will stay away from Buffalo just because Dustin Wolf's in net. or something like that, if he's in net, of course.
Yep.
I think this game is definitely game stackable. Like, I like the other side as well. So anything else on the Sabres or
yeah, I mean, the main part about Calgary is that no Ryan McLeod. I think he's hurt and out. I wanted to say he was out longer term than anything else, but I can't seem to find that right now. So I'm not sure. I guess theoretically he could return, but I'm pretty sure he's not in the picture for the Sabres here. So that makes their defensive, play worse. And so that would lead us to the Calgary side of things, where we have Huberdeau, Kadri, Pospisil. That line will cost less than 14K. Coronado, Backlund, Coleman remains at the 12.8-ish K, where they've been for weeks now, it feels like. And then Sharon Govich, Karens, and Kuzmenko, who, are certainly not as good as the top two lines, but that's going to cost you 8.7K. So if you're trying to game stack this, there's, 3 lines that I think are viable. The fourth line is just the fourth line. Like, there's nothing there either, which is fun from a DFS standpoint. You just flat ignore it. And we get falling prices in Weegar and Anderson, who defensively haven't been doing much for fantasy, but we know they have it in them. So I guess where is your initial lead on what to do with the Calgary side?
I think it's Weegar, Coronado. You could just play those two. I think the number one, like you're saying, I mean, we talked about this all early season where it's like, we love these defensemen. They're 7-7 and 7-2, and now they've come back down to earth because even though they both have 30-point upside, they're not getting 30 points anymore. So like eventually you're going to want to buy back in. I think if you're playing the Flames, it'd be stupid not to consider them heavily. I think the more surprising thing is that Coronado, it kind of felt like there was this concern that he could be Victor Olofsson, just like, oh, he's going to have, 16 goals and 4 assists. He actually has, more assists than goals. Like, he is actually involved in moving the puck. Like, it does seem like he's a more complete player than maybe the concern against him, at least maybe the naysayers might have thought, just because it was hard to see that level come together quickly. But it is. Wait, what?
I neighed. I mean, I don't know. For some reason, I thought a neigh was a donkey sound, but now I'm realizing it's a horse sound.
Yeah.
So
I mean, I think that at 4,300, Matt Coronado might be the best priced play on the slate, as well as Kreider. I think those two are probably if cash games existed in the NHL in any capacity, those would be sort of the kind of pencil those guys in along with some of these upper price centers, and you're kind of starting to build something special here. I think this game sets up, like I'm saying, to have a pretty decent concentration. I don't know if you're concerned all about line matching, if like playing Coronado and that line could end up playing against the Sabres top line. I don't know.
Yeah, I think that's what happens. I don't think it's particularly relevant. I've been I'm trying to see if I wrote anything in my newsletter about Coronado that I can steal, but I don't think I think it was just video stuff that we did, because before last year he was a guy I was taking in best puck, going like, oh, like this is him, like he's it, I think Harvard, blanking, but he was
Harvard, right?
Yeah, he was a smash, fantasy prospect, profile wise, as a fantasy asset, and of course now he's looking every bit of that. The price is not moving on him, so yeah, all for Coronado. I wish he had a better line mate than Backlund and Coleman. Like, they're very just workmanlike, and like, I don't know if they're going to bring out the most points, which for DFS upside obviously matters a ton. But that power play role you can't argue with, and the matchup is pretty good, and the price is certainly right for a good 4 ceiling combo. So Coronado's a good play. I'm not sure that he's like on my top tier, but I will cede to you that he's definitely a good option, if not a great one.
They definitely played the Kadri line more against the Scheifele, Connor, Velarde line last time they played. That was in Winnipeg though, so I'm not sure how hard the matchup will be. But also, I'm definitely not afraid to stack against Kulik and Thompson. You know what I mean? Like, it's not like oh no, how could I ever survive that matchup? But maybe getting a little too pretty irrelevant, right? We know we have 4 games left. Oh, sorry. What?
We know the Backlund's our shutdown guy, so like,
4 games left. Vancouver at Edmonton. Of course, going forward, every single Vancouver slate, if you're considering playing them, definitely you're going to need to be kind of in on the news. The JT Miller saga continues. It kind of feels like every time it gets close and there's a lot of smoke, so that, that just gets to sing, put down. He's still playing a lot. He's still playing well. The past couple games before then, he wasn't really playing a ton. And of course, not playing a ton doesn't help you at 6K. Edmonton, it does like to me, like I am interested in Vancouver, I guess. Let's just assume this is what we get tomorrow. They've come down in price across the board outside of Quinn Hughes, but of course that would be the catalyst that would get this team to winning a GPP slate is their best player by a country mile. I mean, are people going to stack against Edmonton without McDavid? I don't even think that's going to happen. Like, how big of a difference do you think this makes that they just do not have McDavid?
Yeah, I mean, it'll make the odds a bit narrower, but on the road, I don't see any particular steam coming on any of this Vancouver
plus
stuff.
Plus 150 for Vancouver on the road. It's a 5.5
My
coin flip
guess,
basically.
I mean, I think the Washington, Logan Thompson was once again, I think 35% last night. And I think that's more to do with Washington than it has to do with, McDavid's out or whatever. But Vancouver goalie is pretty cheap, so maybe we see some residual like Vancouver goalie ownership, and maybe Quinn Hughes or something follows with that. But realistically, we did see these lines in practice today. Besser, Pettersson, DeBrusque, Suter, Miller, Garland, after their loss to the Sabres. And in this matchup with Edmonton, what's really interesting is that on Saturday, before the whole, McDavid and Myers, like just cross-checking different dudes in the face for whatever reason, Vancouver owned that game from start to finish. Like, just Edmonton had no prayer. I mean, that game could have been like 7-0. Like, it was just a full-on onslaught of Vancouver's own time. So it's hard to square that with a 50-50 game versus Sabres that the Sabres wound up winning yesterday. But it's interesting because I don't think that was something that we should have been expecting out of Vancouver. And should we expect it again on the road in Edmonton? I don't know. But if I'm playing anything in this game, I think it's Hronek, 2,900 defenseman. He's just a better player than 2,900. He's not paired with Quinn Hughes right now, but he's going to get shifts with Quinn Hughes. He's probably going to play 23, 24 minutes in a close game. And he gets some secondary power play time too. So that would sort of be my way to get exposure here. I don't want to spend up into the mid-range for any of the forwards, and I certainly don't want to pay 8,100 for Quinn Hughes. Of course, though I do respect what he has done before the people come after me. On the Edmonton side, no McDavid means Podkolzin, Draisaitl, Arvidsson, Hyman, Henrique, Perry, Connor Brown, RNH, Matthias Janmark, and Skinner, Philp, and Kasperi Kapanen. I want to say that was from a practice today, but let me make sure I'm not just pulling the last game. Yes, that is from a practice today. So these are the lines we're expecting. Victor Arvidsson was the power play 1 beneficiary. Of course, I don't think he got any points, but he had 5 shots. So like right away, pretty much pays for his DFS price tag. And obviously, if he gets points playing with Draisaitl, he's probably more likely to get points than not. I think Arvidsson is his quote-unquote best play at the forward position on the slate. Very similar to Coronado.
Yep.
The talent
throw him right in the mix.
Around.
Yep. Those are the three. The 3-headed cheap guys. The pieces that you're going to want to take a look at. I think if you take nothing away, it's Arvidsson, Kreider, and Coronado for sure. And really cool league. I'll throw them in the mix, even cheaper, a little bit more of a punt. Did you see the Joe Mixon talking about what happened in this game? By the way, I don't know if you saw my tweet.
I saw the tweet because you tweeted about it, but yeah,
that made me laugh so hard. For those that didn't know, Joe Mixon was fined by the NFL because his teammates were saying that the NFL rigged the game against them. Basically, I don't know. I'm not going to get into all the nonsense, but
no, I think
he's getting fined by the NFL.
A beat writer included a tweet in an article.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. Yeah.
I didn't.
No, it was even worse than
Oh
that.
my
But yeah.
God. Oh yeah. Now I'm looking down. I see it. Yeah. Mixon didn't say it. The quote is from a story. Yeah. Everyone knows. Yeah, you're right. He didn't even say it. So he's saying
Yeah.
like, I didn't even say this, and the NFL fined me. What's next? I get fined by them for Connor McDavid cross-checking an opponent in an NHL game, and I was like, what are you saying? Fuck me for? Like, I don't know that. Just like Joe
He
Mixon
knows
out here,
puck.
just like he knows puck. I mean, that's good to know. He'll be watching for sure. So you
Yeah.
got to get their best effort. What about Bouchard? Just before we continue too far here.
No, thank you.
Cool.
I need the gravity of McDavid to be interested in a 7K Bouchard. I think the guy that's interesting here is the Nacho Man himself, Corey Perry, playing with Zach Hyman and Adam Henrique. I feel like that's gonna lead to a decent amount of minutes. It's an odd pairing of Hyman and Perry. And two guys who kind of do the same thing. But yeah, they practice like that. So I think that Corey Perry's going to play, 16, 17 minutes here, and he's the minimum salary. So Adam Henrique is certainly not the guy that you would want, but like, I think it makes sense, versus a Vasily Podkolzin for 1,000 more, who's, I think a better player, obviously, but, maybe it's worth it to save that 1,000 since Draisaitl will probably double shift. I don't know. It was something that stood out to me, given Perry scored last game, given the practice alignment. RNH is just banished to the Connor Brown and Matthias Janmark realm. So like, there actually could be a role here for Corey Perry.
Yeah, 100%. We can let's get to the final 3 games. So I think another spot that's going to be pretty popular is the Penguins. This is another spot that a lot of people will look at for a couple of reasons. Number one, you get the perfect correlation with Sidney Crosby and the matchup that, of course, everyone dreams about every night. Rust, Crosby, Raquel, and Chris Letang, who, while it hasn't really come together in this as of late, he is top line, he's
I have no
26, 25.
No clue what the power plays are here. Raquel has been out, so I'm guessing on power plays. Could be Letang, it could be Grzelcyk, it could be both of them. Not sure.
You looked into it, you didn't find anything, or did you not have time to?
Nope, just practice. Just practice lines. So I would think that Raquel, revenge, whatever, gets a bit more ownership than Brian Rust. What also is helpful in choosing between the two is that when they have gone Crosby, bunting, and double D alignment, they've used Raquel on that power play and moved Rust down to the second unit. So that's, again, I think they'll just keep it top line plus a D plus bunting. But, no way to be sure. I do think it's important, though, that we get the spot right because, like you say, it's against Anaheim. It's going to be pretty popular. So, yeah, that is sort of my official lean toward Raquel versus Rust. But if you need a crutch, also, big time revenge here for Rickard Raquel. Glass, Malkin, Bunting is the second line. Tomasino, Hayes, Pavilli, the third. Kevin Hayes has been just producing 2,900. Could certainly see him making his way as a punt. He had a DraftKings has him credited with 0 shots on goal and scoring a goal against the Kings. So congratulations to him for that achievement. But anyway, the main idea though, Malkin sub 5K, Erik Karlsson 5,200. Like, again, these are just guys that I've been playing and talking about for weeks now. I think they're going to be owned here, but maybe if you want to discount an ownership, I think you could go to the second unit and get away with it. Specifically Gino and Karlsson, but the other guys could make sense too in a pinch if you need some real values in your lineups.
Yeah, no, I mean, there's really not a ton to go over. Like, this is the stuff. Check out tomorrow. Definitely be mindful because if you don't get the right news here and you mess this up, it's not going to feel good. Any other pieces on the Penguins to consider? Of course, Pavillier is not going to be with Crosby like he was last game, and that was a clear smash spot. So kind of avoiding that. But like, could you look at a guy like Karlsson? Could you look at a guy like, I don't know, Karlsson?
Yeah, I said he was certainly an option.
Okay.
Yeah, no, I like the
I
player.
meant Leo. No, I'm just kidding. We can
Going to Anaheim, uh, a pretty ugly one against the Panthers. So they switched some things up. They kept the top six intact, but they moved Jansen Harkins between Cutter and Fabry, and McTavish with Lundestrom and Leeson. I guess that's a thing you can do. I'm not targeting anything here, so I guess thoughts on Trevor Zegras and his return from injury, tallying 4 shots in a role alongside Carlson and Killorn. Played 16 minutes. Anything there for you from Zegras?
No, I'm not gonna play it. I mean, he's fine. 3,500's whatever. I don't know. I mean, this
That
team is just
line,
yeah.
that line is going to run you 9,100 in total, and they're going to play. So
Play it, sure. Yep.
I think
Play it. Play whatever you want. Do whatever you want with Anaheim. It doesn't matter. Their coach is so unbelievably bad that it just doesn't matter. I just don't want to do it. I don't want to. No one can make me, and I'm not going to. I'm not playing Anaheim tomorrow. I'm not
Jackson
clicking on any
McComb,
Jackson. Yep, Norris candidate Jackson Lacombe.
just
Never going to stop. It's every night. He shoots, he blocks, points. He is really like whatever. I mean, whatever. You're clicking Cam Fowler, whatever. At this point, you can click on Jackson Lacombe. At this point, it doesn't really matter to me. What?
Averaging 5 shots plus blocks a game.
Yeah, no, he's fine. Like, he's a good play. If you're playing Anaheim, you can click on him. I'm not like, there's not really an argument. I'm just like, this team is.
I don't know how this happened.
Remember like 2 weeks ago when he was scratched? Like, what the hell? Like, I don't understand this team. Like, it's just no rhyme or reason. You want to get Cutter Gauthier going? Oh, let's put him with Jansen Harkins. That'll get it going. Oh, what about McTavish, who's actually been good? How about Leeson and Lundestrom? Like, oh, okay. So now all the ancillary pieces feel nuked. So yeah, you're paying 9 point whatever K for a guy that is just not doing anything in Leo Carlson, Trevor Zegras, who I just don't really think has any ceiling, really. I mean, he does, but like, when have we seen it? It's been an absolute, I don't even know. And Killorn at minimum salary. I'm just not clicking on those buttons. So what? You're going to play the Vetrano line? No, I'm not. Good luck.
Good luck, says DJ.
I hate the Ducks. I hate them.
We are getting, right there with you. We are getting to 4 teams that I have not looked into whatsoever. So we are just hoping that the sheet is close enough here. In the interest of time, Washington, Ovi, Dubois, Protas. I don't think that's how it was last game. It was Ovi,
Protas, it was Ovi, Dubois, Tom Wilson, McMichael, Strome, yes. Ovechkin.
Yes, that
top
is
power
correct.
Play with Chikrin, Ovi, Strome, Wilson, Carlson. Yep.
Tom Wilson had a night again, 5,300. If you're talking about Dubois and Protas as his line mates, those guys are good, but they're certainly going to defer, and Tom Wilson will shoot like a donkey. So, there you go. Mm-hmm. There's your, I don't even know, your role play of the day, your role player. I think Seattle's using Beniers in their shutdown role now. So he might even get a matchup with Chandler Stevens' line, which is quite good for Tom Wilson. Yeah. And then, of course, Ovi, 8,800 against the Kraken. Ovi could score all 22 goals he needs or whatever in this matchup, and I would not be surprised. So thoughts on Washington?
Yeah, I mean, it's probably the Ovi line for me if I'm going to do it, but I understand why you click on Tom Wilson. Doesn't come correlated with his line mates on the power play. Should be Chikrin, Ovi, Strome, Wilson, and Carlson. I think I'm a big enough donkey that I would click on McMichael even if I'm playing Ovechkin and Strome. I believe in talent.
Donkey-esque.
He's been unbelievably bad, but I think I could just honestly. The thing is I probably just end up clicking on Chikrin, to be honest. But I do like Ovi, Chikrin, Strome quite a bit. I think that's a stack I'm going to be just putting next to Vegas as these are kind of the upper tiers that I'm looking at. On the Seattle side of the house, yikes. Unfun, bad, not interesting. I don't think there's any chance I actually click buttons here, but Schwartz has been good. Matt?
Yeah, the I mean, Beniers has also been good, and he's playing like 20 plus minutes a night now, and it's fun because that line is actually good. But now the price is following, and Beniers is 4,600, and Kako's 3,800, and Schwartz is still kind of a value at 45, but Logan Thompson's just going to stop every puck anyway, so like, what does it matter? Yeah, it's a tough sell for me to go here to in no uncertain terms. So I'm just not going to do it.
Great.
It's very clear though that Washington is a ticking time bomb if they don't sort of turn their play around. They are just getting catapulted offensively. I think they got outshot 33 to like 15 against Edmonton, and obviously that's Edmonton, but like they're just doing that every single night now, where it's just like sit around and wait for Logan Thompson to make saves. So it's scary, I think, if you are relying on Washington here to do a ton. The final game that I don't even want to talk about is Nashville and San Jose. Nashville scored a bajillion goals after allowing a bajillion goals to start against San Jose at home on Tuesday. Now they hit the road. This matchup is now in San Jose. And what is the Nashville money line here? Like, just to sort of frame the conversation.
-238. This is the only other 6.5, and this game is a higher total, plus 110 on that over 6.5. So the highest total, -238 on the road Predators.
Ouch.
I am not clicking Nashville. Yeah, I'm not clicking Nashville 1 tomorrow. I feel, and the people are obviously going to, and I get it, right? I mean, the OC, the boys, they're all out full force. Everyone's going to be, just giga smash. Nashville, Pittsburgh, I could see some Edmonton pieces like we're saying, because Draisaitl, it's doable. Carolina has, like I said, a higher implied team total. These are sort of your chalkier teams, but Nashville is going to be the most chalky. That's going to just be this for sure. So I'm not going to play it out of the fact that I said, this is good when it's cheaper. It's not cheap. And Yossi feels to me like a must-have in this situation. And like, I don't know how you make this lineup work. So I'm not going to try. I'm just going to hope that they don't, play, what's his name, Georgiev, and then give up 7 goals, because some of those goals were bad. Georgiev, yikes, buddy.
Yeah. Sometimes goalies matter, and certainly happened on Tuesday. Toffoli, day-to-day technically, but I'm not sure that we can expect him to play for San Jose. So I think what we're seeing is not right, but it's at least close. It's in the right ballpark. They probably just change everything after the joke of a collapse that Tuesday was, though. So I don't really care.
I don't mind playing.
Maybe.
Yeah. I'm sorry. Yeah. I have no problem playing San Jose. I have no idea what they're going to be. Zetterlund, no Toffoli, and we see his top power play, and I don't care who the thing is I'm not really afraid to play against any of these Nashville lines at 5-on-5, and obviously their penalty kill is just whatever. So I think it's probably better off if he's with Celebrini and Eklund, although they were putting him out there, Celebrini that is, against Forsberg line as much as possible. It looked like, I mean, from what the game kind of went, it didn't work great, but they're obviously, again, like they're trying to make Macklin Celebrini into the number one center of the future, and they're going to do this to him. If it's Eklund, Celebrini, and Zetterlund, there's a non-zero chance that I throw that together. Non-zero. I'm not saying I'm high on it, but I think I'm higher on it than most will be.
Okay. I also think they had a 5-forward power play, so Wallman wasn't even on the power play, and he's 6,300. So like,
yeah,
whatever.
Right. That is correct.
I just cannot wait for this game in the Night Hammer to completely burn me. So speaking of being completely burned, what about top stacks, guaranteed goals, and closing on out?
Yeah, let me pull up the guaranteed goals thing. I think last time we were 2 for 4. I don't recall exactly. For me, I think I'm going to end up with what was the team I said? Oh, Vegas. I think it's, Eichel, Theodore, and Stone. That'll be like what I try to play the most. But we'll see. That's a little bit more difficult to jam than other things, but I'll go with it for now.
All right. I will do Pittsburgh 1, Rust, Sid, Raquel. Don't play any games with random defensemen. Maybe Eric Carlson, even if he's not on the same power play, because I think he's good. But yeah, I think the forwards are what you want in Pittsburgh.
All right. I'll just say Kulik, Thompson, Peterka. It is statistically possible to make this whole thing work.
Yeah, loves the Sabres, folks.
No, I hate myself is the correct answer to that. But you were close.
So close. All right, I will go with Boldy, Eriksson, Ryan Hartman. Yeah, Kaprizov back helps the power play. Ryan Hartman's cheap enough to where I think he actually sort of makes sense at 4K, and that line is going to cost you 17K. So I think that's a bit of a discount against the Utah team without their best defenseman. And that I don't really have much time for defensively for a Minnesota team that's been in a bit of a rough stretch, but I think it's very clearly related to the absences of Kaprizov and Spurgeon. So jump on it before it hits, I think is sort of the mindset there. My first guaranteed goal. Oh, sorry. Do you have a recap of?
No.
I'm going to go Chris Kreider.
We'll do this first. Kreider. What's his price again?
4,500.
Okay, so you can't afford what I was going to say. I think it's technically 100 off, but no one's going to know. And you know what? Honestly, I really am not even like Raquel or Rust and Coronado. It's technically either 100 off or 200 off. I want to say Raquel. What was the injury? Was it injury? Personal. It was personal. I don't care. I'm just going to say it. Raquel Coronado. I think it's 200 off. I apologize greatly in advance, but Raquel Coronado.
And you're just taking a guy in a stack of mine on an 11-game slate. Just no creativity.
You said Pittsburgh?
Yeah.
Oh, I was so focused on figuring out my guaranteed goals that I completely missed your first stack. I remember the second one. Didn't hear the first. Surprised. I have no creativity and I'm a gutless coward.
That is true.
Matt, go.
Second guaranteed goal. Let's see. You took Coronado, right?
Yeah.
I'm not going to take Kadri.
Okay. I see. I was going to say you have like 6K.
Because I think a similar option that I feel just very similarly about is Patrick Laine. 6,300. He doesn't do much, but he does score goals. And in a matchup with Detroit, I think Patrick Laine checks all the boxes for me for a guaranteed goal.
Sounds like a good core of goals, Coronados. Okay, let's get out of here before I talk anymore. Thank you for joining us.
For 70 minutes.
I think like no one joined, and I don't feel bad about that because I didn't even know Matt wanted to record at 7 until about 6:30. So sorry we didn't push this one. Like I always actually I push so many notifications out there always about this stuff. Very, very good at promoting myself. No, not ton else. Going to be, like I said, pretty. I mean, I'm going to be gambling this weekend for sure. I'm going to bring my laptop. Like everyone, I'm like a bunch of people I'm going with are like, hey, like can't wait to gamble on hockey with you. And I was like, I will be there to do that. I'm in. So there'll be bets. I might put a disclaimer out there that like, hey, I will be probably drinking a little bit, and I might not like post all of them because we might do some like, first goal because we're going to turn a game on. Like I might just like keep that to the side, but follow along. And if you DM me any questions, I'll have my computer, so I'll pull some stuff. Matt, anything else from you in the studio before we get on out of here, get you to dinner?
Nope. I think, you should all be subscribed to the newsletter by now, moods.beehive.com. I posted the Tuesday slate in there. I might do a Friday slate write-up. I have not actually looked at that slate. And we have a premiere 360, The Spin, coming up in the DK lobby. And I will be recapping that in the newsletter a week from today. So, next Wednesday, or next Wednesday when you are hopefully $100,000 richer or whatever the top prize is, you can read me writing about your lineup or my lineup, hopefully, that took down the prize and some of my thoughts on the slate and everything that I do in recapping the marquee GPP on DraftKings each month. So lots of good stuff over there on the newsletter, and I hope you check it out if you haven't yet already. That'll do it for us. Thank you all for tuning in. From Doug, from DJ, from myself, have a good Thursday, everybody, and we will see you.